Imagine you're a kid with a broken piggy bank. You owe your neighbors $1,000 for a window you broke, and you don't even have enough for a piece of gum. That was Germany after World War I. They were broke, hungry, and angry. But then, less than 20 years later, that same kid has a fleet of private jets, a mansion, and a high-tech army. You have to ask, who gave the kid the money? Most history books tell you it was all because of a charismatic guy with a mustache and some angry speeches. But speeches don't build tanks. Steel, oil, and billions of dollars build tanks. And that money didn't come from inside Germany. It came from the very people who were supposed to be Germany's enemies. But here's the first thing they don't tell you. Wall Street saw the destruction of World War I not as a tragedy, but as the biggest for sale sign in human history. In the 1920s, American bankers didn't see a future monster, they saw a giant construction project. Two massive plans, the Dawes Plan and the Young Plan, were set up by American bankers. On paper, these plans were meant to help Germany pay back its war debts. In reality, it was a massive circular money-moving machine. American banks lent money to Germany, Germany used that money to build up its factories, and then used the profits to pay back the banks with interest. It was a perfect business model. But that's not what really happened behind the scenes. While the public thought this was about peace, the world's most powerful bankers were actually building a bulwark. You see, the super rich in New York and London were terrified of one thing: communism. They saw the Soviet Union rising in the East and feared that the red virus would spread and take away their mansions and banks. They needed a guard dog in the middle of Europe, a strong, militarized Germany that would act as a shield against Russia. To the bankers, Hitler wasn't a villain yet. He was the hired security guard they were willing to fund to keep their own fortunes safe. But here's the twist the media didn't tell you. The biggest companies in America didn't just lend money, they literally built the Nazi war machine from the inside out. Think about the trucks the Nazis used to invade Europe. Many were built by German subsidiaries of companies like Ford and General Motors. Think about the fuel for the planes. A massive American oil giant shared secret formulas with German chemical companies so they could make synthetic rubber and high-grade aviation gas. Without that specific American technology, the German Air Force would have stayed on the ground. These weren't secret, evil companies. They were the biggest names on the stock market, and they were betting on both sides. But what the history books hide is that even when the bombs started falling, the business deals didn't stop. There was a place called the Bank for International Settlements, or the BIS, in Switzerland. This was the bank of all banks. During the height of World War II, the president of this bank was an American. In the same room, bankers from the US, Britain, and Nazi Germany sat around a table, moving gold and managing investments, while their respective countries were literally blowing each other up. It was a gentleman's club that transcended the war. They were making sure that no matter who lost the battle, the bankers would still win the war. But behind closed doors, it gets even darker. The US government knew exactly what was happening. A few brave investigators in Washington tried to blow the whistle. They found that the very lawyers and bankers who had set up these Nazi funding deals were now working high up in the US Treasury and the State Department. Every time an investigation got too close to the truth, it was shut down for national security reasons. The people running the war were often the same people who had financed the enemy's rise. They weren't just protecting Germany, they were protecting their own bank accounts. But that's not even the most shocking part. The real secret is what happened when the war ended. When the Allies finally won, you'd think they would arrest the people who funded the Nazis, right? Wrong. The lawyers who had spent the 1930s setting up these secret financial networks were the ones put in charge of denazifying Germany. They made sure that giant German factories they had invested in weren't destroyed. They protected the bankers who had handled the stolen gold. They rebranded the guard dog of the 1930s into the partner of the 1950s. But here is the final twist that they never want you to realize. Those financial networks never actually went away. The same families and the same banks that saw a profit opportunity in the rise of the dictator are still the ones moving the levers of the global economy today. They proved that borders are for the poor, and wars are just a way to reset the global balance sheet. When you look at the world today and see massive corporations and banks acting like they are more powerful than governments, remember, it's not a new trend. They've been practicing since 1933. They didn't just fund the war, they owned it. And if you own the war, you never truly lose.